and gentlemen, Fringe fans of all shapes and sizes, hello and welcome to First Fringe Friday. I'm Brian.
I'm Lindsay. What's up, everybody?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We didn't rehearse that at all. Surprise.
I got the hint when you said, I'm Brian, and then you brought me on to say, I'm Lindsay. That's show business, baby.
It would have been funny if you said, I'm Alana, and everyone would be confused.
I just blanked for a second and just started naming all of our staff members.
I'm Lil Sebastian.
He's sleeping.
All right.
In his fringe shirt like he should.
Well, everybody, before I turn this over to Lindsay to do some opening stuff, I just want to say hi. I just want to say it's so great to connect with you folks. One of the reasons we're doing this is not only to celebrate the artists that are so wonderful and amazing for the Fringe universe, but also the reason we're doing this is just to connect and to feel together with you folks, even if it's just one evening a month. And I'm really excited that we're going to be doing this. This is a brainchild of both Lindsay and I, and it's just our way to connect with you folks. And so please, give us some comments, like, love, share, let's show your friends the amazing talent that we have here at Orlando Fringe, because we got some great people coming up tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, and it's nice to say hi and touch base throughout the year as we lead up to our 30th anniversary in May, which is super exciting. I'm ready to do my announcements now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lindsay Taylor with the announcements.
Hi, everyone. For those of you tuning in, What? I was just re-saying hi. It's 7:01.
I just couldn't help but laugh. It was funny.
Okay. The first thing is, if you're an artist and you want to showcase some of your work in the near future, our Winter Mini Fest applications are still open until September 1st. Applications can be found on our website. Currently, as of today, in this moment, we are an in-person festival. It could change at any moment, so we are asking artists to have a backup digital plan just in case. But yeah, you can find that application at orlandofringe.org. Speaking of First Fringe Fridays, I would like to announce the theme for next month's First Fringe Friday before we get started. And we are doing a BIPOC 10-minute theater festival. So applications for that will be dropping 1 week from today around noon. In order to increase our artist engagement and outreach and working on your skills, we have a workshop coming up from Makai Eastman called The Final Draft. And he'll be working with you to create either a 10-minute play or a one-act play over the course of 4 different weeks. And it will end with a showcase here on our Orlando Fringe Facebook page and website. It's only $35, and you can also you can find that information out on the link that Brian just threw up there. It's going to be really exciting. It's affordable. It's by an incredible director, playwright, actor. So you don't want to miss that. And that starts on August 18th. In addition, we have an Inclusion, Diversity, and Accessibility Committee. We've been meeting for a couple months now, but I wanted to let all of our Fringe fans know it is open to everyone. It's not just open to artists. It's open to volunteers, patrons, members of the community. If you're interested in joining, you can just email me, Lindsay at orlandofringe.org, or just message this group, this page on Facebook, and we'll be happy to connect you to me, and we'll get you in our committee. Everybody's welcome. That's all I have for right now. I have one final thing, but I'll wait till the end of the event to say that. Should we bring in our first performer?
Let's do it. But before I do, I just want to say hi to everyone that's watching. We've got a bunch of people watching. Tim Murphy, hi. Kurt Fitzpatrick, hi. Mallory says, yeah, go McKay. It's really awesome. So I'm glad everyone's watching. So let's bring on our guest. Do you want to introduce our guest today?
Yes. If you've been around for the past couple of years, you know her, you love her, you can't miss her energy. She's the best. Introducing, all the way from Toronto, Esther.
Hey, Polly. We can look down. There's Polly right there.
Hey, guys.
Like a Brady Bunch kind of thing. Hi, Polly. How are you today?
Hi. Every time I think of you, my friend, I have this memory of you running around the last night of the lawn, last night at the festival, wearing your gold pants, just screaming, I can't believe I did that. That's literally what I think of.
I still can't believe I did that.
Well, welcome back to Fringe in our own little way.
Yay! I'm honored and excited, and to be the first.
Well, people are excited to see you. I mean, Mallory just used your name.
Yay! And of course, I'm obviously like scared out of my wits because that's what life is like as an artist. So there you
go. Here, though.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're the first guinea pig.
I'm always test me for anything. It's all good.
We've been having a daily Monday through Friday live talk show of sorts on Facebook at noon every day.
I do. I started it because it was like a couple of weeks into the quarantine, and I was just like, I'm losing my mind because like I talk about my anxiety in the show, but I was just like, I have to do something, and I just thought, I'm gonna talk on noon on my Facebook page if anybody wants to come by, and literally it's been like Monday to Friday ever since like March 30th. Well, except I missed a few, but basically I did one today, and I was like, I have to perform tonight. This is weird, but Wednesday, August 19th will be the 100th time I'm doing this silly talk for my thing, and so I want to throw myself a party because it gives me an excuse to get cake.
Yeah, that's what any excuse to get cake is worth it. And you've done live performances through this digital medium before through Fringe live stream.
Yeah, I did literally just 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I did Pollywood for them, and that was the first time I did the show since I debuted it last May in Orlando. So it was 14 months since I'd done the show, and it's been the last time I did Damn It Jim was 8 months ago here in Toronto in December, and so I'm like, oh, so rusty, but just do it.
Yeah,
like riding a bike, I'm sure.
I feel like there's always like at least I'm not good at memorizing stuff, but I feel like there's always like parts of it that are always there. So I feel like it's a little easier once you've done the show several times to be like, okay, it's there somewhere. The muscle memory, it's there somewhere. I had to tell myself that many times too.
Yeah, I've actually been doing a lot of short storytelling pieces like through digital stuff, and so like that's been really great, like for me to like focus and like get better at doing that. And so now to go back to like to the I'm like, I used to do full hour shows. What the hell, right? So, like getting back up to speed on that. Yeah.
What do you consider a 1 hour show long form?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
So for those of us who are about to watch your show, which is everybody watching, obviously, give us your like rundown of the description of the show.
Oh, for Pete's sakes, you couldn't warn me.
Like we're flattering us in the line.
Give me an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So the elevator pitch that I did when I was handing out all my postcards. See, this is what happens when you come back with like hundreds of leftover postcards. You basically turn it into like an Andy Warhol wall of yourself. So that's my backdrop today. It's basically the elevator pitch is this is about how Star Trek has helped me in my journey as a recovering alcoholic. But I talk a lot about, that's like more in the like second half, but this is the first half is me talking about my life and basically how I became an alcoholic and then how everything changed after that.
Cool. See, that's a great elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Yay!
I'll see that show in just a moment.
Are you ready to do the show?
Oh, sure.
All right.
Well, before she gets started, I'm going to throw this up here once. Take a moment. Send Esther a tip. You know, artists have been hit hard, just like everybody else. You know, by canceling these festivals around the world, these artists need money. Help them out. Give Esther a tip. You can hit paypal.me/Pollywood Productions. I'm not going to put this up during a performance. We'll share it again at the end. I'll put it in the comments. But please take a moment, share, give her some cash, throw her some love. That's all we ask. Buy her a beer. No, not a beer. What am I saying? Buy her some cheese curds. Buy her some cheese curds. Was I not paying attention? Oh my god! All right, I'm removing myself from the show. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Take it away, Polly.
Thanks, guys. Yay. And here we go. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of me. My 1 hour mission to tell you about my life, to let you know how I got lost in a dark nebula for a while and how a little sci-fi show called Star Trek taught me how to navigate my way out into a beautiful new quadrant. But first, we have to go back in time. The year is 1971, and I am born here in Toronto, Canada. Yay! I live with my mom and my granny. Now, my mom is a nurse and she works nights. I really don't see her much. I just kind of see her a little bit on the weekends. So I'm really raised by Granny. Granny is very tall and built like a linebacker and smokes 2 packs of Craven A menthol cigarettes every day. My poor little asthmatic lungs are not a fan of this, but what they're not a fan of more are the bullies that torture me every day on the schoolyard. So every day at lunch, I race home to be with Granny, race back to school, and as soon as school is done for the day, I race back home. Now, racing around this much with asthma, not the smartest thing ever, but I will take a smoke-filled apartment over the bullies any day. And Granny is my best friend. We talk all the time, and we watch the small screen. We watch the news, soap operas, Y&R. We watch hockey, because it is Canada after all, and Star Trek. Now, this is the original series from 1966, now in syndication in the 70s. I'm still too young to really understand everything that's going on, but what I love are the vivid colors of the sets, some cutie named Captain Kirk, a beautiful blonde woman in a red dress, and a tall beehive that goes all the way to the stars. I thought she was the prettiest thing I had ever seen. And these guys? So that was what life was like during the week. Then the weekend came and it was time to be with my mother. And we didn't exactly have a relationship. Didn't really get to know my mother because she didn't know how to be a mother, but it was more like she didn't want to be a mother. So from the small screen with Granny, I went to the big screen. We spent the entire weekend out at the cinema. So conversation and small screen to complete silence and movies broadcast in front of me. And this was fine. I didn't mind just watching everything. But then one day in 1977, everything changed. I looked up at the screen in that darkened cinema and saw the words Star Wars, A New Hope projected in front of me. Words started flying. I desperately tried to grab them and pull them back towards me. Then the movie started and all of these characters came to life before my very eyes. This was a world I understood. I desperately wanted to be a part of this no matter what. That was the day that I truly discovered the magic of cinema. And it stirred a spark inside of me that made me feel so alive. So this was what my life was like for quite a few years. And then just after I turned 14, Granny passed away. So now it was just my mother and I, and we had to really get to know each other for the first time. And it didn't go that well. So as soon as I turned 16, I got a job at Cineplex. So now I could watch movies for free. I saw Die Hard 67 times in the cinema. And every Wednesday for 3 months straight, I skipped double science class to spend the afternoon with Bill and Ted on their most excellent adventure. Part 3 is coming out in 3 weeks. So, needless to say, I was not loving school. It was still really horrible and the bullies were still there. So in my last year of high school, I dropped out and got promoted at Cineplex. So at 18, I was now running the theaters. And this is where I met my first husband. And I thought he was charming and wonderful and smart and going to take care of me for the rest of my life. So as soon as humanly possible, I moved out from my mother's place and I married him. Oh boy. Well, at the start, it was really great. And it was nice to know that somebody else really loved movies. But I soon found out that he didn't just love movies, but he was like obsessed with them. And we had to see every film that came out, like everything. And so that was what my day was now consumed with. I'd left Cineplex by this time and was a breakfast and lunch waitress in a hotel. So my day started by waking up at 4 a.m. and then starting work at 5 a.m., working until about 3:30 p.m., then meeting him for like a 4:30 show, then a 7 o'clock show, then a 9:30 show, and then if it was like Friday or Saturday night, and there was like a sneak preview or a midnight screening, we would go to that. and started again the next day and the day after that, every day for 10 years. Now, having done this for like a couple of years, I suggested one time, maybe we can just stay home or just have dinner or something. And this is where I discovered his anger management issues. And things changed drastically. And all of a sudden, I was not in control of anything. And I was very scared for the first time in my life. And it sounds ridiculous to say that I was being forced to watch movies. That's what was happening. And I didn't want to upset him because that started the emotional, mental, and verbal abuse for almost 10 years. And from that, I developed severe OCD, anxiety, and depression. And the magic of cinema that I had found all those years before suddenly were ripped away from me, and I had no joy in my life. And it was now that I realized that movies were escapism for my mother because she didn't want to deal with reality, meaning me. And now my joy was taken away and I needed my own form of escapism. And that's when I turned to alcohol. So right across from the hotel was my local watering hole. And I slowly started going directly there after work as opposed to meeting up for a movie. And that turned into going for more drinks and more drinks. And soon it was 4 to 5 days a week. I was going directly to the bar after work, drinking until close, which was 2 a.m., heading home, having a nap, and then getting up at 4 a.m. the next day for work and doing this over and over and over again. It obviously didn't make the marriage any better. It made it worse. And I just drank more to compensate. And now things were getting bad at work because I couldn't stay awake or was feeling ill. And that's when I started drinking on the job while serving customers. And it's something that I'm still quite ashamed about today. So this went on and it came to December 1999. And for some reason, I suddenly felt that little spark coming back inside of me out of nowhere. And he said to me one time when we got home, he said, "What's wrong with you? You've been acting strange all night." And I don't know how it came out of me, but I looked at him and I said, "I can't do this anymore. I have to leave." And 2 weeks later, the first week of 2000, with the clock at 0, I left with 10 cardboard boxes, my stuffed pig, and $8 and change in my bank account. And I started a new life. I was about to turn 30 and I had no idea how normal people lived. And I was talking to a friend one day, and this was new. I was not allowed to have friends in my marriage. And so this friend actually was saying to me, "You're really funny. You should take classes at Second City." And what? Growing up in Toronto, we obviously all watched SCTV, but I never knew that they actually had improv classes. So I signed up. 1 month into my new life, I was now taking classes at Second City. And a year later, I auditioned for the conservatory. And with no previous experience whatsoever, except this year of improv classes, I got in. And I did that for another year and a half. And I was slowly coming out of my shell and gaining confidence for the first time in my life. And I was feeling good. And I was realizing I wasn't actually drinking that much anymore because I was actually happy. And then that all finished. And I discovered these things called credit cards that no one explained to me before. So I had racked them all up full, and now I had no way to pay them off. So I stopped doing any fun and just worked my ass off to get my debt down. That was it. 2004 came and I got myself a TV, and it was very exciting. And I started watching shows, catching up on what other people were watching. And I discovered Battlestar Galactica and Firefly. And these were really great. And all of a sudden I was feeling that spark coming back inside of me. And then in 2007, I joined Facebook. Very slow to get to places, but I get there. So I joined Facebook, and I am like trying to look up different groups so I can like meet more people and just get myself out there more. And I discovered a group called the Toronto Browncoats. Now, this is a group for Firefly fans, like Joss Whedon. So I joined, and they were having a meetup, and I thought, this is awesome. I'm going to go, and I'm going to meet other people, and it'll be great. And I went, and everybody was awesome to each other and not to me, because I didn't know the entire Joss Whedon catalog. So I went home and I felt dejected, but I thought, no, it's okay, Polly, just keep getting out there. It's all good. Then I discovered a group called the Toronto Japanese Film Appreciation Society. And so I joined that. Now, if there's one thing that I got from a decade of watching pretty much every film under the sun, it's my PhD in world cinema. And damn it, I'm going to make use of that. So I joined the group and I see a post saying, if anybody would like to write a review, send it in and we'll get it up. I send a message in and start talking with the guy who created it, whose name is Chris. And we start to talking, and then all of a sudden we're talking a lot more, and then that turns to phone calls. And then he says to me, oh, actually, I was going to say hello to you when you joined the group, because obviously I know who you are. And the reason he knew who I was because I was actually kind of a minor Toronto personality that year. The year before, in a random moment of craziness, I joined the Pillow Fight League. Yeah, you heard that right. The Pillow Fight League. So it was pillow fighting, but extreme pillow fighting. And we were trained in mixed martial arts, wrestling, and boxing. So we were literally, really beating the crap out of each other. And it was awesome. And that also helps me with my confidence and feeling better. And so he was like, oh, yeah, so of course I know who you are. And then we're talking a bit more. And then I let him know one day, I'm not going to be online much this weekend because I'm running a booth at Fan Expo, the big sci-fi anime convention that we have in Toronto. And he said, hey, that's great. I have a pass. I can actually come and see you on Saturday. And I said, great, come on by, bring me a coffee. Because we love coffee in Canada. So I'm at the table on Saturday and I'm running things and there's a bit of a lull. And all of a sudden I look across and I notice this guy walking towards the table with a large Tim Hortons cup in his hand. And he made it to the table. He said, hi. And the relationship started. And stuff was really wonderful. And it just felt so good to have somebody who was actually respecting me and really nice to me. And things were going so great. And then 2 months into the relationship, one of the fighters in the league took her own life. And she was a really good friend of mine. And I was devastated and beating myself up because I thought, how did I not see the signs? Why wasn't I there for her? Why couldn't I do anything? And just she couldn't reach out to me. I didn't even know she was in pain. And then I did the only thing I knew possible just to shut everything out and not feel anything. And I went back to the bottle. And I drank for a week straight and don't remember any of it. And at the end of it, I had to face Chris. And for the first time in my life, at the age of 36, I looked into the eyes of another person and I said, I need help. And so we looked up AA meetings over that next week. And a few days later, I found myself sitting in a meeting and just crying the entire time. And I couldn't believe that the stuff I was hearing, because people were reading and telling their own stories and sharing. And I was like, how is everybody saying stuff that I've been feeling all these years? How do people know what's going on in my head? And the motto of AA is, you are not alone. And I suddenly did not feel alone anymore. And there's a point in a meeting where they give out chips, and it's a token that represents different stages of the first year of sobriety. And the very important chip that comes at the end is the 24-hour chip. And it's a desired chip and a commitment to just stay sober for 1 day. And I honestly don't know how my legs worked, but I somehow got up and I made my way to the front of the room and I collected that chip. And I couldn't read what it said on it until the following morning, because that's how long and how hard I was crying. But I kept going back to meetings again and again, and I started to suddenly feel a bit better again and see light at the end of the tunnel. And then I made it to 1 year of sobriety, and things were looking good. And a little while after that, Chris started asking me a question every once in a while. He would say, it's really odd that we basically met in person at a sci-fi convention, but you've never watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm a Star Wars gal. No, I'm fine. And he's like, okay. And he would back off, but then try every once in a while again. And I would just say no, because this was the first time in my life I had the power to say no. And he respected that. So he would always back off, but try again every once in a while. So years go by again. It's 2009, and the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek film is coming out. Now, I have no interest in seeing this whatsoever. I don't care. But Chris and our friend Sean really want to see it. So I'm like, okay, I'll go with you guys and I'll enjoy watching you guys geek out over the film. And you can buy my ticket. So we go to the cinema, and I love sitting right in the back row. So you look straight ahead of the screen and above everybody. So I'm sitting in the back like this. I don't care at all. The film starts, and 4.5 minutes in, I'm bawling my eyes out. And 11 minutes in, there's a Beastie Boys song. Okay, JJ, what else you got for me? 2 hours go by. Credits start and the house lights come up. Chris and Sean are like, oh my God, that was such a good film. Yeah, that was a lot better than I expected. Oh my God, what did you think, Polly? I was like, are you okay? I'm like, that was amazing. What? That was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. Oh my God, that was amazing. That was amazing. They're like, it wasn't that good. I mean, it was good. Like, no, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I just lost my mind. I started running up and grabbing complete strangers, shaking them, going, wasn't that amazing? And I started bounding down the stairs all the way from the back like an orangutan. I just lost complete control of my body, started parkouring everywhere. Chris and Sean stayed way back. But it was suddenly the feeling of the magic of cinema coming back into me. The spark that I had lost so many years earlier was back. Totally unexpected once again. I had found it again, and I was just so relieved, and I just couldn't contain my excitement as I'm bounding down the street, finally getting out to the sidewalk and the sun blaring in my face. I remember that I'm an actual human being, and I need to start walking erect like one. So we're walking down the sidewalk, and Chris now sees this as the perfect opportunity. So he's like, so you want to try Next Generation now? And I said, nope. Four years go by again. It's 2013, and the second J.J. Abrams film is coming out. I'm excited as all hell. I own 2 DVD copies of the 2009 film because you can wear out a DVD. This is true. So the film is coming out, and Chris is like, I'll watch it. And I'm like, I can't wait. And we watch it, and it's incredible. I love it. Not as much as the first one, but I still love it. And we leave the cinema, walking down the street. I'm in complete control of my faculties the entire time. Thank you. And we're walking down the street, and now it's time again. Chris has been asking this question for 6 years now. He is resigned to it. He doesn't want to do it, but he has to. He's on autopilot. And just out of his mouth comes, so you want to watch Next Gen now? And I stop and I said, yeah. And the color started to drain from his face. And then I said, yeah, but you know, like, there's more than one show. I mean, like, why would we just watch Next Generation? There's like a whole bunch of other series after that, plus the original series. So if we're going to do this, why don't we just do like the whole thing? So if we're going to do this, let's go whole hog. And then the color really drained from his face. And we got home and pretty much kind of had to write a contract that said, I will watch every episode of every series of Star Trek, blah, blah, sign here. So, but now the mission was set. There are costume changes, people. And I'm very pleased because it's very hot without the fan. So when the series finale of Next Generation premiered in 1994, Chris and 50,000 of his closest friends piled into Toronto's Skydome to watch it on the Jumbotron. And when they arrived, each of them was given one of these commemorative t-shirts. It had been hanging in his closet for almost 20 years and was now bestowed upon me. I watched it twice. And now it was time to engage. 7 seasons of Next Generation into 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, into 7 seasons of Voyager, into 4 seasons of Enterprise, then back to the beginning with 3 seasons of the original series and 2 seasons of the animated version of the original series. because there's an animated version of the original series. And it's awesome. So we finished that, and that was 2 years nonstop of binging Star Trek. And I was noticing stuff along the way that I was starting to look at things differently, like not just the world, but actually looking inside myself and noticing a lot of different things from stuff that I learned from these shows. Like from Next Generation, I learned about politics and friendship. From Deep Space Nine, personal belief and expression. From Voyager, compassion and facing your fears. From Enterprise, adventure and tolerance. And from the original and animated series, I learned about individuality, imagination, and these guys again. Now this is a tribble. It's an alien species, and all it does is eat and reproduce and eat and reproduce and eat and reproduce and eat and reproduce, and that's it. But it multiplies and it gets all over the station, and people can't think properly, and it just infests everywhere. And I just suddenly started thinking of these as the voices inside of my head. From the bullies to my mother to my ex-husband to the OCD and anxiety and depression. Everything was represented in this, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and it just consumed me. And I don't know why it happened, but one day I thought, what if I look at this tribble and I just kind of get one of those things out of my head into that, just so that it tries to leave my head. And I looked at it and I just went, "You're stupid." And I saw the words come out and go into the tribble. And then I just let it go. And all of a sudden I felt that I could breathe a bit easier, and my shoulders went down, and my back straightened up, and I just started to feel better. And it was mind over matter. That's all it is. But I was getting all of this from a Star Trek show. So once the shows were done, time to watch the movies. 10 glorious films with the original cast and the Generations cast. Star Trek the Motion Picture, The Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, The Final Frontier, The Undiscovered Country, then the Generations cast, Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. 10 glorious films. Then the documentaries, Trekkies and Trekkies 2, about Star Trek fans around the world who go to conventions, and The Captains. This was from Will Shatner himself. He directed it, and he interviewed all of the captains from the other shows. They told him things that they would never tell another living soul, because he was Captain Kirk, and he lived through all that as well, so they could say these things to him. Then, to wrap it all up, we watched Galaxy Quest, because how could you not? And then, oh my God, that was it? There was nothing left to watch? How have we watched everything in Star Trek? Oh my God, I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, so hold on. That was everything. So what on earth can you possibly do after you've dedicated 2 full years of your life to Star Trek? You know what you do? 10 days after you finish that last film, you pack your suitcases and you fly to the biggest Star Trek convention in the world. And there's only one place crazy enough to host that. Vegas, baby. New chapter, new t-shirt. We fly from Toronto to Las Vegas. I am standing in the lobby of the Rio All Suites Hotel. I can't believe that I am here. We check in. I am standing in my Voyager t-shirt. Keep calm and carry on. I am not calm whatsoever. And we're standing there, and we've got our stuff, and we've got our key, and we're walking, and then all of a sudden I just stop, and I start to panic. And I don't know why all of this is suddenly coming over me, but I feel like I'm back on the schoolyard with the bullies. I'm standing there, and I start shaking, and I think, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't belong here with any of these people. I don't know, why was I stupid enough to think that I could come here and actually be a part of this? And that's when I stopped and noticed in front of me the biggest Klingon I have ever seen in my life. You are new here. Oh my God. Welcome, weary traveler. Welcome home. And with that, Mitch, son of Mitak, pulled me in for the biggest bear hug of my life. And the convention was now officially underway. We went up to the room, threw the luggage inside, and raced back downstairs along the hallway to the convention registration desk. We got our lanyards, general admission, because we're poor, and we got the program book. Oh my God, this is Star Trek. It's a program book, and I love it so much. And I can't believe we're here. What's happening right now? I definitely feel like I've just warped into another dimension. Then I realized that we're starving. So we walk around looking for a place to eat, and we find Hash House A Go-Go. Now, meal portions in the United States are significantly larger than those here in Canada. For example, an order of chicken and waffles, this is your waffle, and then they pretty much just bring a chicken and sit it on top, and you just have to deal with it. And we were so hungry, we were like, we'll eat anything, that's fine. So we're sitting there and having my coffee. Looking around, my eyes bugging out of my head because I can't believe everything that we're seeing. And then all of a sudden, 2 tables across from me, my favorite Star Trek actor sits. It's Casey Biggs from Deep Space Nine. And I'm like freaking out, but somehow I'm able to keep myself together. So I sit there, and as I'm like kind of going, I can't believe Casey Biggs is sitting near me, I notice that along the hallway, other Star Trek actors are just wandering around freely. And people are just going, hey, Renee, how's it going? Oh my God, Walter, good to see you again. Hey. And they're just saying hi and leaving them alone. I thought, what is this magical place? So we finish inhaling Clucky and start looking through the program and wandering along the hallways. There's a vendor's room, a silent auction room. There's a place where you can get your photo taken with a bunch of tribbles. There's an Enterprise made out of balloons. And then there are 2 theaters. This one over here is the Deforest Kelly Theater. This is where, this is named after the actor who portrayed Dr. Bones McCoy in the original series. Now, this theater has 500 seats and is mostly for scientific panels, talking about novels, schematics, behind the scenes, makeup, so many things that were awesome. The other theater on the other side of the hall was originally called the Roddenberry Theater, but had now been renamed the Leonard Nimoy Theater, because just a few months earlier, Leonard Nimoy, who portrayed Spock on the original series, had passed away. So this was now named after him. This theater held 5,000 seats. And this is where all of the huge Q&As of the stars from the shows was happening. So we're walking around and we're taking this all in and looking at the program, and we're meeting people from like all over the world. And all of a sudden, the days of the weekend are just like zipping by. We're seeing all these panels and having a wonderful time. And then all of a sudden, it's Sunday. And Sunday morning, and we head down to watch some more panels. And there's a Deep Space Nine panel happening. And I'm really excited. And I actually think, you know what? I'm going to go down to the front and ask a question. So I ran up to the front, and what they had, this is a microphone, you're just going to pretend. So what they had on either side of the stage on the floor in front of it were microphones, and you could line up and ask a question if they had time to go to the audience. So I went up really early because I was watching how people did it throughout the weekend, and I got up and I was first in line on the one side. So I'm standing there and I think, oh my God, okay, I've got 2 questions ready. This is really good. Casey Biggs just happened to be on this panel. I was not asking him a question because I would literally be like, hi, there's no way I could talk to him. So I had a question for one actor and a backup question just in case for another actor. So I'm standing there and it's really good and we're waiting for it to start. And like you do when you're in lineups, you get to know the people around you. So I turn around to see who's behind me, and it's this really pretty girl, and she's got this gorgeous teal dress on, long blonde hair that's done in a braid that's cascading over her shoulder, and she was dressed as a character in one of the episodes of the original series, but she really looked like Elsa from Frozen. So I was like, oh, hey, do you want to build a snowman? No. So I turned around because I could feel Elsa's glare, icy glare in the back of my skull. Luckily, the actors started coming out on stage and the moderator sat down. So I was getting all excited and all ready. And the moderator is talking away and goes down the line talking to each actor, asking a question of his own. First actor, he says my question right off the bat. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. That was an easy question. That's okay. I can see how that would be brought up. All right, no problem. I've got a backup question. It's fine. Moves down, 2 more actors. My second question is now asked. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm like standing there and I'm like starting to sweat and I'm shaky and I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally like, I've got like no questions. I didn't know we had to present like have 7 questions ready. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I'm standing here and I've literally flown across the country from another country to be here. I'm standing in front of a ballroom full of people. I have nothing to say. He's going to be calling on me any second now. And I don't know what the hell to do. And I turned around to Elsa looking for some help. And she just looked back at me and went, let it go. So once again, I turned around to not look at her icy glare. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just started to feel this wave of calm come over me. And I couldn't explain it, but it just suddenly felt that everything was going to be okay. And it was at that very moment that the moderator on stage said, right, we're going to now go to the audience for questions. Okay, go ahead, right over here. Hi, I love Star Trek. Oh my God. And Deep Space Nine is my favorite of all the series. And I want to and I started bawling my eyes out at the mic. This is not what you want at a Q&A. And I tried to compose myself and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm emotional because this is coming directly after the Grace Lee Whitney tribute. And what had come right before that was a tribute to another actor who had passed away just around the same time as Leonard Nimoy. Grace Lee Whitney was in the first half of the first season of the original series. She played Yeoman Rand. She was the woman in the red dress with the tall blonde beehive that I fell in love with as a little girl. I knew nothing about her life. And in this tribute to her, I discovered that she unfortunately had problems with drug and alcohol abuse. And sometime during the first season, an executive at Paramount attempted to assault her in a boardroom one night. And she was able to get away, but he didn't want this, he didn't want her around on the set anymore. And so he convinced the other executives to fire her because of her drug and alcohol abuse. And they did. And she went down on her luck. But it was actually Deforest, Kelly, and Leonard Nimoy who found her, helped her get back on her feet and get work again. And she dedicated the remaining 35 years of her life to helping others in their journeys as recovering alcoholics. And I sat in that huge ballroom that Sunday morning learning all of this, and I was no longer at a Star Trek convention. I was home. And now I'm standing at the mic crying and trying to compose myself, and I say, I'm so sorry. I'm so emotional. This is coming directly after the Grace Lee Whitney tribute, where they talked about her alcoholism. And I'm coming up on 8 years of sobriety myself. And that came out of nowhere. I couldn't believe the words came out of my mouth. And as I took a breath in that moment, the 5,000 people to the right of me started cheering and applauding, as did the actors on stage. And I stood there not believing what was happening. And then I remembered that I had to ask a question. So I said, so I guess my question is for Casey. You played an alcoholic in the show, and I'm wondering if you could talk about your relationship with the writers and what it was like to portray that character. Thank you so much. Now, Casey played an alcoholic, but he was an alien alcoholic. You can only find this in Star Trek, people. Now, his alien species was a Cardassian, not a Kardashian. That's an alien species no one wants to make first contact with. So this was a character that became an alcoholic, and it wasn't a main character. It wasn't even a supporting character. It was actually a character that showed up every once in a while. And then the last 2 seasons of Deep Space Nine came back and had a huge story arc. This was why Deep Space Nine was my favorite of all the series, because they had storylines that went over several episodes and seasons. So you really got into character development and really cared about these people. And so you saw Damar, his character, be an alcoholic and then actually overcome it. And spoiler alert, he kind of started a revolution that took down the Cardassian Empire. But anywho, so I'm standing there and I am now speaking to the person whose character means absolutely everything to me in the entire Star Trek universe. And he just said how much of a joy it was to be able to portray that character and to have something that was so rich and wonderful. And thank you so much for your question, and congratulations on your sobriety. And then 2 actors down, Mark Alimo, who portrayed his superior on the show, said, "Can I add something?" And everybody said yes. And he said that his mother had been an alcoholic and she unfortunately passed away from it. He was still too young to really understand it all and thought it was his fault and carried that into adulthood. But now he actually does what he can to help others in their recovery, in their journeys as alcoholics. And thank you for your question, and congratulations on your sobriety. And I said, thank you. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. But I knew that I had to move quickly because Elsa was going to put an ice pick in my back any second now. So I started walking back to my seat. And as I was passing by people on the aisles, they started high-fiving me as I went by. And people jumped up in the middle of the rows and gave me the thumbs up or just waved to me. And I got back to my seat and I sat down and I was just trying to soak everything in. And the panel finished and I was like, can we just sit here for a few more minutes just to get my legs working again? And Chris was like, yeah. And people were walking by, and as they walked by and they saw me, they just smiled and nodded. And that's usually the AA nod. Now it was the Star Trek and AA nod. So I was sitting there and I thought, I think I'm feeling a bit better, like maybe we can go now. But I suddenly looked over and saw this woman sprinting up the far aisle and coming this way, and I think she's going to stop in front of me, and she did, smack them in front of me like the Roadrunner in the Wile E. Coyote cartoons. And she looked at me and she said, "Were you the woman up at the mic earlier?" And I said, yeah, that was me. And she said, "I've been coming to this convention for 4 years now. I've been sober for 23 years, and I know being here, I'm with other Star Trek fans, but I've always wondered if there was anyone else like me here, and hearing you talk, I realized that I'm not alone. So I just wanted to thank you so much for saying what you did and making me realize that." And her and her husband sat down and joined us, and we talked for a while, and then a few more panels, and that was it. The convention was over, and it was time to come home to Toronto. So I came back, and went back to my job. Unfortunately, I worked for a place that was very toxic and demeaning, and I was extremely unhappy in my job. I had been looking forward to the convention, and that helped me get through the year, and now I had come back. But there was a light that I could focus on. It just so happened that everything had lined up perfectly. So the following year was 2016, which happens to be the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. The convention was adding a day, was going to be so much bigger, and oh my God, we have to go back. And Chris was like, we could barely afford this year. Let's see if we can manage it for next year. And I said, okay, I know, I get it. So the following week, I booked the hotel, I booked the weekend passes, and then I told him. And then 2 weeks later, almost a full year before the convention, everything sold out. And Chris looked at me and said, well, your OCD really worked for us that time. So now we were just going to work throughout the year and try to save enough money to be able to go back for the 50th. We had calendars on the wall, literally counting down the days. This was something I could look forward to. I could just get through my job just enough to get to Vegas again and back to my family. So the year went by and it was time to go back to Las Vegas. I have my Janeway or the Highway t-shirt. I walk into the Rio Suites. I'm in the lobby. I belong here. I'm saying hi to everybody. This, by the way, is Captain Catherine Janeway of Voyager, portrayed by Kate Mulgrew. Both of these women are fantastic and fierce. You don't want to mess with either of them. So once again, we get our luggage, throw it in the room, come back downstairs to the convention desk. Get the lanyards, general admission again, still very poor. We get this on, and the new program book. Oh my God. So now it's time to go to Hash House A Go-Go, inhale Clucky, and get ready for the convention. So we're sitting and we're having our coffee. Coffee's so good. Looking around, and I'm looking through the program book, and I'm noticing really incredible things. Like there's a panel on feminism in Star Trek, and it's run by Kate Mulgrew and Bijou Trimble. Bijou and John Trimble were the couple that started the letter writing campaign in 1968 that ultimately saved Star Trek to bring it back for a third season, basically saving the entire Star Trek franchise that we know today. So she was on this panel talking about feminism in Star Trek, and Kate Mulgrew was doing a panel on her own, and I just kept looking, and I just noticed that so many panels were happening, and it was like all women. There was even a Star Trek, Shakespeare in Star Trek panel that was all women. This was incredible. It was so much representation as not just a Star Trek fan, but as a woman, and I was just even more excited to have everything start. And we're walking around, and the days are going by so quickly again. And we're watching panels and seeing all of our friends from the year before and meeting new people who have come from all over the world just for the 50th. And it's incredible. But there's something in the air that I can't put my finger on. That's just something doesn't feel right. And I'm not sure what it is. Then I notice it. I'm watching Kate Mulgrew's panel just on her own, and she's standing on the stage. And at one point she says, I am so proud of my friend, Hillary Rodham Clinton, because in just a few months, she is going to become the first female president of the United States. And 95% of the huge ballroom erupts in cheers and applause. But there's a sprinkling of 5% that are grumbling and seemingly angry. And I thought, well, you can't please everybody. It's just a bit odd. And panels keep going by, and there are actors that are making comments like this on the stage, and then I'm slowly sensing more grumbling. Marina Sirtis from Next Generation came out on stage. The first thing that came out of her mouth was, don't you just wish the Borg would assimilate him? More cheers, everybody freaking out, except for now a bigger group of the grumblers. And somebody next to me literally had his arms crossed and said, "Keep your goddamn politics out of Star Trek." I'm sorry. Have you ever watched the show? There's nothing but politics in Star Trek. That's what it is, especially the original series. And then I took a look around a bit more and I noticed the red caps. And that's what the grumblings were. And now all of a sudden it dawned on me that all of these people this was their escapism. Like movies were for my mother and alcohol was for me. This was all they wanted. They just wanted aliens, they wanted photon torpedoes and entertainment, and that was it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But these people were now slowly becoming violently angry at the actors sharing these views. And it was getting quite ugly. And I was happy that the actors were speaking out, but all of a sudden I was starting to not feel that it was a safe space sometimes. And panels would happen and this would happen again. And then luckily I finally found a safe space because one of the panels started and it was, oh my, yes, George Takei came out to save the day. Yes, it's a fan, and I'm a fan of George Takei. So George Takei took the stage and let everybody know that we are all fabulous. Most of us are fabulous, and that we can be whoever we want to be and love whoever we want to love. And honey, those red caps disappeared faster than a red shirt on an away mission. So everything was good. And after that, Whoopi Goldberg came. This was her first ever Star Trek convention. She'd never been to one, and because it was the 50th anniversary, she came to Las Vegas to celebrate with everybody. So I thought, oh my God, like, okay, I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna ask a question. So I went up again, and I stood in line, and it was a lot of people. You can imagine how many people want to talk to Whoopi. So there's like 11 people in front of me on this side and like people behind me and another huge line on the other side. So I stood there and I thought, I hope I get a chance to say something. She came out and they went through stuff so quickly. She wanted to speak to as many people as possible. She was so happy to see everybody lined up. She wanted to make everybody happy, just like Whoopi. So the line is going quickly. All of a sudden, I find myself up at the front, and now it's my turn to ask a question. I didn't cry this time. I didn't cry. So I stood there, and they called on me, and I said, "Oh, hi, hi, Whoopi. I'm a comedian as well, and I just want to thank you so much for continuing to knock down doors for women in the industry and just to make it a little bit easier for us to do what we do. So thank you so very much. And I'm actually curious as to who your muse is, who has inspired you all of your life." And she said it was her mom. And it was the sweetest answer. She said that her mom had instilled values in her when she was very young. She said that she could do whatever she set her mind to and be whoever she wanted to be when she grew up. And it was one day when she was sitting on her living room floor watching an episode of Star Trek from 1966 that she saw Nichelle Nichols playing Lieutenant Uhura, a Black person in a position of power on a crew. And she screamed, she ran around the house, and apparently she said, "Mama, there's a Black person on TV and she ain't no maids." This is literally her words. And she knew in that moment that that's what she wanted to do with her life. It was so profound. And her mother giving her these views and expressions as well, she grew up and fulfilled her dream. And she's saying all this, and I'm taking it in, but all of a sudden, at the same time, I'm starting to feel a little sad because I didn't have that relationship with my mother, and I still don't have it to this day. So hearing all the love that was felt, it made me a little bit sad because I felt left out. But then I thought, I'm actually kind of doing okay for myself, and I'm standing in Las Vegas talking to Whoopi Goldberg. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then she said, thank you so much for your question. And by the way, I love your tights. I wore these tights. Gold for Goldberg. I didn't tell her that though, because she'd think, psycho. She didn't need to know. So watched her panel and then watched a few more. And then once again, the convention was over. It was crazy, but it wasn't really over. My friend, the Roadrunner, and I had been talking throughout the year. We'd kept in touch, and something that was like really crazy that started a tiny seed in an idea grew and grew and grew. And we decided to hold an AA meeting in my suite at the end of the convention. So because it was important for her to keep her anonymity, and I had basically announced I was an alcoholic in front of 5,000 people, I was like, I'll be the face of the group, no problem. So we posted on all of the Facebook pages that I was a member of. And when we got to the convention, we actually wrote out like 1,000 flyers that we put on tables everywhere saying the room number and the date and the time. And basically it was just like saying, hey, we've created a safe space. If anybody wants to like come for any type of recovery, we're having this meeting. And we decided to come up with a name for the group. And if you're actually a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're known as a friend of Bill W., named after Bill Wilson, one of the founders of AA. So we decided in honor of him and Grace Lee Whitney, we named the group Friends of Bill W. and Grace W. So I made this very cheap button, and I announced to everybody on all these pages, all that stuff, that I would be wearing it every day on the convention floor, so that if they saw me, they could come up and ask a question or just talk, or if they weren't able to talk, they could slip me a note and I could message them later. So we're getting the word out about all of this stuff, and the convention ends, and we're now in my room, and of course I had bought cookies that were now all over the table in the like the living room area. And since my friend had driven from California, she brought her coffee maker, because you can't have an AA meeting without coffee and cookies. So we have this and we're all set, and the meeting was for 8 o'clock, and it's now 7:30 and nobody. And 7:45, nobody. 7:50, now 7:55, and nobody's here. So we sit and we look at each other and we think, well, we put ourselves out there, and people know that they can reach out to us anytime. We created an email address so that people could message, and that's actually pretty good. Like, we should feel proud of ourselves. And so we're like, yeah, it's like, you can still have a meeting with 2 people. Like, hi. And so we started to feel a little bit better. And I leaned forward to reach to grab a maple cookie for myself when there was a knock at the door. And it startled us, and we looked at each other and made our way over to the door and opened it, and somebody came in. And as we were closing the door, another person kind of put their hand up, and they came in, and another person, and suddenly people were coming in and sitting on the couch, the chairs, and the beds were over there, and the coffee. And then we were like, oh, right, everybody comes late to an AA meeting. So people are coming in and sitting, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I have to run this meeting now. So to start a meeting, usually there's a ringing of a bell, and I had brought kind of a basic one from home in Toronto. So I ended up standing up from the chair at the end of the room and taking a deep breath. Hi, everyone. My name is Polly, and I'm an alcoholic. And with that, the first AA meeting at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention began. The hour flew by, and nobody wanted to leave. Everybody stayed longer, Everyone was so grateful that this safe space had been created and they could come and actually really be themselves and talk with other people in recovery. And it went on for quite a few hours. And then slowly people started to leave until it was just my friend, the Roadrunner, and I. And we stood there and gave a big hug and then said, okay, we did it. That was really good. You should be proud. And I said, okay, I'll see you later, hun. And she left. And that was it. The next morning, it was back to Toronto, back to the toxic job. And there was nothing to look forward to now. Credit cards, once again, had been racked right up. There was no way I was going to be able to go back to Vegas for a really, really long time. So I just went back to work and suddenly, once again, found myself sinking back into my depression with nothing on the horizon to look forward to. Everything just seemed to consume me, and I fell into a deep hole and couldn't find my way out. But then, 1 year later, wouldn't you know it, in the fall of 2017, a new Star Trek show was coming on air. Star Trek Discovery. I was so relieved that there was new Star Trek. I watched the first couple of episodes and it just felt like what I needed. I felt the spark coming back again and I felt good. And then I watched the third week's episode and afterwards I just kind of said, oh my God, wake up, Polly. You didn't need a new Star Trek show to come into your life. You've had the tools to help yourself this entire time. I mean, stuff that you learned in recovery and the stuff that you learned in Star Trek in those 2 years. Like, seriously, you learned about politics and friendship and compassion and expression and personal belief and everything. And oh my God, you've like fitted into your life so perfectly. You made friends with people from all over the world and you expression, you literally like called yourself an alcoholic in front of 5,000 people. Girl, literally talk about facing your fears and the compassion that you showed to create a safe space for people to come and just know that they could reach out for help. You are strong and fierce and awesome and powerful and relentless and funny. And oh my God, why are the voices in my head positive all of a sudden? Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Elsa. So once again, I took the negative things and I let them go. And I enjoyed the new season of Discovery. And I felt that I'd had enough Star Trek t-shirts. So it was time for a promotion. And I bought this cosplay dress from the UK and didn't fit into it right away. And so I lost 40 pounds over a few years when I started to get better. And it fit perfectly last year. From the quarantine, I have gained a wee bit of weight back. However, you can always fit into a red bridge dress. There we go. My pillow fighting body will be back any day now. So I wear this with pride. I wear it as a badge of honor. There are a lot of dark times, especially now with everything that's going on in the world. But everything I've learned in my recovery and from what I've learned from Star Trek makes me feel a lot better knowing that we're really all one federation. And it's our duty to look after one another. And though it doesn't seem like it from time to time in these past few months, we really are doing it, and we can. Because 43 years ago, Princess Leia looked at me from the screen and told me that there is always hope. I believe that with every fiber of my being. I still have the 24-hour chip that I got at my very first meeting. And in 2 months, I will be celebrating 13 years of sobriety. There is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And this is a point in the show where I usually let people know that if they need to reach out to anyone at any time, that I would be very happy to be there for them. And I mean that right now as well. If you're going through something, my contact information is out there, and I make a promise to all of you that if you need to speak to somebody, sometimes it's easier to speak to a stranger. And I'd be happy to be that person, to be a sounding board for you, and to remind you that there is hope. Because damn it, Jim, I'm not dead. And I definitely plan to live long and prosper. Scene.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Hi, guys.
I especially enjoyed you ducking out of the frame as your blackout.
Yes. So as much as I love wearing this, it with the fan off, it's really hot in here. So I'm gonna
Another show costume change, everybody.
But I bought a t-shirt online that I'm very happy to change into. And I sew, wait, hold on. So it says IDIC means BLM, obviously Black Lives Matter. IDIC is a Star Trek term that means infinite diversity in infinite combinations. And I bought this the first week of June from the Women at Warp page. They're on Facebook and Twitter. I'm not sure if anybody's watching, but hello soon, everybody. And they put this up, and all of the proceeds were being donated to an organization. And I had to have my show in my head, and I can't remember where the funds went, but it was when people were raising money for all the wonderful causes. And so I will look it up and I will post it on my page and everything. And so hopefully this t-shirt is still available, but I'm very happy to wear it now.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't know what.
There's a big echo of me. That's weird. Okay. There's some comments coming in. I want to share that real fast. Linda wants to say, you are such a powerful person. And can't agree more with that. That you're just fantastic, Polly. We love that you're part of our family here. So, and Anthony wants to share. He says, "Brava!" And Julie says, "Polly, you are strong and fierce and generous and inspiration to all of us. Love you lots." XOXO.
Oh my
That's
god!
beautiful. And you're making people cry too. Christian's got tears in his eyes.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, beautiful. And by the way, while you were doing your show, a lot of people were commenting about the Extreme Pillow Fighting League, and I think we're going to try to bring that to Fringe 2021, although I have looked it up as well. And if you do go on Twitter and search for Pillow Fighting League, at the end of May, they actually tweeted a picture of you, Polly, saying the first fighter to ever try out for the PFL. I'm not going to share the picture because I'm going to let people see it. It says Polyester 2006.
Yeah.
But you look like you were kicking some ass
Oh my god!
in that photo. That is for real.
I didn't. Hold on a second. There wasn't time. I mean, when there's a way I can do this is longer, but I actually, one of the other fighters actually cross-stitched polyester into one of my old aprons, and so I basically wore like a mini dress and this because I forgot to say my character was the waitress from hell. So it was our persona times 10, so it was us. But if it could be, it was pretty much like the mirror universe version of me. So there was a version of like Star Trek in me before Star Trek came into my life, and it was so good.
Mark has a very small detail. I'm a big fan of your ponytail hair flips.
It's literally because I came up. Oh my gosh, this is so lovely. I'm trying not to cry, and I ended up crying a little bit, but that happens. it was so funny. When I did this in Orlando in 2018, my tech was Serene, who I adore, and she said she told me like on the second last night, she would make a bet with herself every night. Where's Polly going to cry in the show tonight? Because it was different every time, and so she was right. She was got like right about 75% of the time. But I thought that was like hilarious. Yeah. Aww.
Very engaging and entertaining. I was at Star Trek Las Vegas in 2016 50th anniversary too. That's awesome.
Yay!
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah. Anyways, it's all gone.
It's funny, Polly. I Star Trek fan as well. Proud to say, Michael Dorn was working at the Orlando Shakespeare Theater a couple of years ago, and it took every ounce of my being not to be like ultimate fanboy when he was there. But by one of the last nights he was there, we started talking, had a great conversation, and by the end of the night, he knew my name, which was pretty rad.
I've got my ward.
Look at that.
Basically, this is my. People have like service animals. Ward he's my service Klingon. Like
service Klingon, I like it.
He comes with me. I put him in my purse. If I have to do something in the day that's scaring, or I'm like clutching him. So it's literally my service Klingon because he's obviously very stubborn and like me, and he'll like give me shit, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but also very loyal and supportive. And so I've had him for a few years, and he really helps.
That's awesome. Yeah. And due to COVID, we're not working in our office. We're all working out of our homes. I left my Tribble in my office, so I feel bad. Gotta get my Tribble.
I just want to say to everyone watching at home, if you have any questions for Polly, we have her here for about 15 more minutes. So feel free to ask any questions about her show, her backdrop.
This is Pig. This is the only good thing that came out of my first marriage, besides learning about world cinema. I got him for my 20th birthday, so he'll be 30 next year. He's been with me through everything, and so he was sitting here, and so I wanted him to be able to say hi to everybody. So he's my little Sebastian. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So Polly, you seemed a little excited during your show of Bill and Ted 3 coming out in 3 weeks. Cautiously optimistic on my side. I don't know.
I'm gonna love it no matter what. It's just because there's not enough time to say it, but I saw it with my friend Cheryl. So my friend Cheryl actually skipped school as well, and this became our thing, and we're still friends to this day. She lives in South Korea now, and she would come every few years, and unfortunately because of COVID they can't fly, but she was originally going to come, and we were going to watch it together in the theater. So unfortunately that can't happen, but it was like because I had trouble with I have trouble learning and processing stuff, and it takes me a long time to have things stick in there. And so I never had teachers that helped me in school, unfortunately. So I was failing. I failed history a few times and had to take it again. So to have these two guys skipping school and failing history, it was a really personal thing for me. And so it just struck a chord even more. And it's just so ridiculously silly. And it made Cheryl and I bond even closer. And so this is a film that's very near and dear to my heart. So it doesn't matter if they all start, speaking in tongues. I don't care. I'm going to love it no matter what, because it's Bill and Ted. Yeah.
We got a couple questions. First question I'm interested in as well. Are you excited about Star Trek Lower Deck this weekend?
I am. I'm hopefully going to be able to find a way to watch it, because I don't have cable or Crave or anything, but I can usually find a way around it to watch the shows. And I know Veronique. Veronique, I met. She's in Montreal, and she actually came to watch me fight the first time I fought in Montreal, because we would travel around as well. And so that's how I met Veronique.
Wow.
So we've been friends. I think that was 2009, because I was in the league for 3.5 years. So I think it's 11 years we've been friends. And I was in Montreal in 2017, and we got to hang out for a little bit. So that was nice.
The only question I have for you, Polly, is how was meeting Weird Al? I know it's not Star Trek, but I know you like him just as much. And if you follow Polly Esther, you know that this is a big part of her life. I know she's got some stories from Weird Al.
This pop culture has that's what my life is. So that's what these shows are. And Vanessa, I know we met at Ottawa, the Ottawa Fringe. I actually talk about meeting him in my other show, Pollywood. So I've now met him 3 times, and he knows who I am. So it's insane. But there's I'll reference you to the show, and the show is still available, actually, Pollywood, that I did online a few weeks ago on the Fringe live stream page. So you guys can still watch that as well. So that's really cool. But I actually, because Vanessa messaged, because I've got Lindsay right here. So basically I did, damn it, Jim, I did a California tour last year in March. Then I came back to Toronto for 5 weeks, and then I had to do the world premiere of Pollywood in Orlando, came back home for 10 days, and then went to the Ottawa Fringe to do Damn It Jim again, and that was the end of my tour. And so I went to Ottawa, and I'm trying to get Damn It Jim back in my head, and my opening night just happened to be Game 6 of the Raptors. So the night they won the NBA championships. I'm not even home in Toronto, so that was sad enough. But now I'm competing against that, and I'm like, well, I'm going to enjoy performing for my tech. But I got 20 people out. Lindsay was one of those people because she was in Ottawa with Katie Thayer, so we were all having an amazing time in Ottawa. She's watching the show. The show ends and the lights come up, and I'm just saying, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here at the Orlando Fringe, because I was looking right at Lindsay and I was like, oh, Ottawa, I'm sorry, Ottawa.
Ottawa, yeah, sure, I can see it.
No, it was so bad. But then I even started it because that was the first show, and I say, when I say the part that I was born in Toronto, and I'm usually saying Toronto, Canada, and I'm like, oh, I can't say that, I'm in Canada, and I'm still in the same province, so I just said Toronto. But a lot of people in Canada hate Toronto, and so I got some boos, and I was like, oh, what the hell was that? So I'm like, they're already angry at me, and then I say Orlando at the end, and I'm like, I swear to God, I love you guys, please don't hate me. Oh my gosh.
Ottawa's such a lovely crowd that they're very forgiving people.
Christian wants to know, how did you and your first husband see so many movies? I feel like you would run out.
Nope. So, basically Toronto, obviously not now, but every weekend in the city is a different film festival. I mean, you've got the big Toronto International Film Festival in September and the documentary festival, but there is I saw all the Hollywood films. I saw foreign films. My favorite films are from Iran. They make incredible cinema. I saw experimental films. I saw documentaries. I saw short films. When I say I know world cinema, I saw everything in the 90s and then old classics and everything. And so it was basically my PhD in
So if you could recommend one movie that we all should see that is mind-blowing, it's the penultimate, it's just something we've never maybe heard of, but we have to experience, what would you say?
Oh my Lord. Well,
let's put you on the spot.
Oh my heavens. You know what? I'm going to recommend my favorite film of all time, and it's a documentary called The Battle Over Citizen Kane. So I love Citizen Kane. I'm one of those people. But this is a documentary about that, and I'm obsessed with Orson Welles. I have been for decades. So this is about Orson Welles' life and William Randolph Hearst, how the two of them came together, and what the film actually represented as a whole and did for everything. And it's just incredible. And there's an old copy. I don't know if they sell it as a 2-pack anymore, but you used to be able to buy Citizen Kane and this documentary in like a combo package. But it's my favorite film of all time and has been for like a number of years. It was actually up for the 1995 Best Documentary Oscar, but didn't win. So, but
I've seen it. It's a very good documentary. It's fantastic.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
So,
highly recommended.
Yes.
Another question: have you continued to go to Star Trek Las Vegas each year? Do you run the AA meeting there still?
I have, and I just met Zoa recently online. I haven't gone since 2016 because it's so expensive, like to fly from Toronto, and the exchange rate between Canada and the US sucks. So it costs so much more to go to the States. So I haven't been since 2016, unfortunately, and I'm hoping to get back one day. But I did a smaller convention in Albany, New York, in 2018, which was really great, and it was a lot smaller, and I got to meet some people there. My friend, I call her the Road Runner because obviously to keep her anonymity. She held a meeting the following year, but not many did really get the word out because I'm very, like I said, I'm very open about it. So I say all these things. So unfortunately, nobody's had the meeting, but there are people that I know who are in recovery that go, and I still talk to them. And so every once in a while, they still try to figure out if they can do something. But now, talking to my friend, we're actually trying to think about maybe starting something online. So that's something that we're talking about.
Yes.
I have a question. Have you ever thought of doing a sort of AA meeting during Fringe festivals?
Oh, I have gone to meetings. I actually never made it to a meeting while I was in Orlando because there was just like so much going on. But in Ottawa, I did, and in California, everywhere I went, I was able to, in New York. So, but I haven't. That's actually a thing that I could think about. I actually, in Ottawa, Victoria, the bar manager, came up to me one day and she was just like, "Oh, hey, like, what do you think of the non-alcoholic selection we have at the bar this year?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Have you gone?" I said, I don't go to the bar because I just have coffee and water. Like, but because she had heard about my show, she actually went out of her way to offer like a bigger variety of non-alcoholic stuff. And I was so blown away. And I was just like, it made me think about like what you're saying, like having a bigger, like, because it's the beer tent. Everybody goes to the beer tent, but like not everybody drinks. And then there's more people who don't. And then it's stressful if you're not getting the ticket sales or if you're struggling with your show in any respect or whatever, and it's just so stressful. And so that, like, I was thinking about that when I was on tour last year. And so,
yeah, I mean, I know we had like the Women in Fringe meetings in Ottawa, and like we had one later in Edmonton as well last summer. And just talking about the conventions, I was like, oh, well, that would be an interesting idea to have something like that at Fringes. I know like Kira Hannon, who is our best new producer winner of 2019, I believe, she's like 18 years old and had a whole workshop during Fringe today about what to do when you're too young for the beer tent. Like, you know, kind of like how to like be successful and how to socialize and stuff for those underage people. But this is a different situation, but still it's the same sort of idea of like, you know, being accommodating to everyone, whether you drink or not.
Yeah. And it's tough. And I mean, I've had other performers, like other artists on the Fringe circuit, kind of message me privately and just going, hey, like, and saying like they're going to the beer tent and they're trying not to. It's not like they're in recovery, but they're trying not to drink as much. And then, but it's just the peer pressure and everything, and they don't want to seem like they're not doing it. But it's just like they felt good about talking to me about that, and I was really happy about that. But it's so tough. It's really tough, and I'd like there to be more of an open discussion about it. So I thank you for bringing that up because it's good. And like I said, so at the end of my show, I basically, so I run to the door and I offer hugs to people. And as they're leaving, I actually give a tea bag of Earl Grey tea to everybody if they want. And on the back is my contact info because I like people to have a nice cup of tea, but also at the same time, like when I say, if anybody needs to reach out, like I really mean it, because it is so hard to to reach out to somebody, and sometimes it's a lot easier to come out to like a stranger, like nobody that you know. And so I'm like, I literally mean when I say like I'm a sounding board if anybody needs to say anything. So I'm all over the place. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. But if you because I've got so many tea bags left over, and I don't tell anybody, but I don't drink Earl Grey tea. I drink English breakfast. I don't like Earl Grey tea, and I feel horrible about it. So I have all these tea bags left over. So if anybody has donated, you can message me. I'll message you, and I will send you tea bags. And I will also send you a Damn It Jim button that I made for the Ottawa Fringe. So you get tea and a button for anybody who donates, because I'm so grateful.
That Ottawa Fringe show also was the show where you spilled the tea everywhere.
So oh my God. So I do the show. So this is right. So opening night, people are booing me because they say Toronto. Finish it. I call them Orlando. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, it's because Lindsay's sitting there. And she's like, what? And I said, I'm sorry. Everybody laughed and everybody was really nice. And I'm like, thank you for not being sports fans and coming. So basically, in the middle of my show, I had knocked my tea over on the stage. And so I was joking, oh, maybe I can sell this show as like Splash Zone for the front row, because I knocked the tea. I mean, it's tepid, but I knocked it over. So then, of course, at the end of my show, I run to the door to hug people, to give out the tea, and like to get a bit of money from merch or whatever. And then I eventually say goodbye to everybody. I come up to the front. Lindsay has found paper towels somewhere. She's cleaning my stage for me. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's just like, ignore me, pack your stuff up. I've got this. And
we got 10 minutes, Fringe rules. We got to pack this up. And the show literally ended. I turned to the tech who had known because I was helping DK with his show. And I was like, we need paper towels and I need them right now.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
We
got one more question here. And everybody don't forget, please tip Polly as quick as you can. Help her out. What's the wildest story you have from working at the movie theater? I feel like I could write a whole show about the stuff that happens at ours.
After Cineplex, I won't mention the name, but my toxic job was good for a long time, but it got very bad, and it was it's not a good place to work, and I've got PTSD from it, but I'm getting better. So anywho, at this cinema, we had a screening of Harmontown, the documentary, and Dan Harmon and Bobcat Goldthwait and Spencer actually came to the cinema, and we were looking after them, and I had to get a huge bottle of Kettle One vodka for Dan Harmon to drink on the stage during the Q&A. And so I got to meet him backstage, and he was and I told him like I'm polyester, and he goes, that's like the best name ever. And then he went on to the stage to do the introduction, and I was like, oh shit, he doesn't have like a drink. So I went to get him a drink from the bar because the other drink was in the backstage, and I came and I handed it to him, and he's like, oh my God. And he goes, this is polyester, everybody. So Dan Harmon like screamed my name. Then when everything was over at the end of the night, he's like, I want to go to a bar. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So basically he's walking down like one of the main streets in Toronto, and like the Pied Piper, there's all of these people following him. And so I've basically like escorted him out of the cinema, and they went to one bar and they turned him away because all of these people were there. And then we came back to another one. So basically there's this trail of like 100 people like following us up and down the street. But it was, he was like, you're amazing. So it was like really, because I love Community. So to have like, I was plying him with alcohol, which is very ironic. But then he was like very appreciative. And so, and I always like made the guests feel at home and comfortable. So that was one of the craziest nights. And I got a cold because we were walking around in like, December in the cold, and I'm like, I just left without my jacket, but that cold was worth it.
Yeah. I got to tell you, the next time you come to town, Polly, I'm going to take you up to Hash House A Go-Go. We got one right down the road. So
oh my God.
We should bring them on as a sponsor. That'd be pretty cool.
Pancakes are literally...
It's insane.
They flop over the plate. I get it, and I eat it for another 2 days.
I don't think that has anything to do with portion sizes in America compared to Canada. That place is just crazy.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
It is pretty incredible. Yeah.
You're filled for the day, and you got Tupperware. I literally take half of the food and I nibble on it for the rest of the day. So you pay a lot of money
the week,
one meal, and then just nibble on the waffle. It's all good.
I love it. I love it.
Yay! Oh my gosh, we've got Bruce coming up.
Maybe.
We're just filling time at this point because Brucey hasn't shown up, but
I just texted him, so we can chat some more if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Anyone get any more questions? We'll put some more questions up here. I do have one more right here. Polly, Weird Al said he had considered parodying "Let It Go" as "Make It So." Would you have exploded had he recorded that?
Yes. Yes.
Make it so. Make it so.
Ethan, that I met at the Weird Al Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony, which was awesome, and then I got to see Ethan again when I was in Albany for the Star Trek convention because he lived near there, and so we were able to hang out for a coffee afterwards. And actually, he introduced me to a friend who let me use his theater when I did my show in LA. So it's just, you never know these people that you're going to meet. So I've got my Star Trek family and my Weird Al family, and it's just, and then the Pillow Fight League family. It's like I've got, you'll find your tribe.
Your Fringe family.
You. Yes. Well, that's obvious. Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. I want to make sure you know.
I do. And yes, and if you are at home and you have hundreds of postcards left over, you can stick them together to create your own Andy Warhol wall. Yeah.
I love it. Well, everybody, one last push. Tip polyester, paypal.me/Pollywood Productions. Throw her some love. That's an amazing, heartfelt show. And I tell you, that is what Fringe is about. People sharing their stories, not being afraid to get there and just share that experience. And Polly, you're amazing. I love you. One of my favorite memories of Polyester, first time I ever met her, we were getting ready for the first day of the festival. She walks in and we knew who she was immediately walking in. Hadn't even talked to her face to face yet. And everyone just screams, Polyester! And everyone just runs around and gives her a hug. Had never been to Orlando before. And that's one of my favorite memories.
I walked in
on the side of the road because it started raining. And I'm like, get in the car!
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was walking. It was so great. And then I remember you guys were still setting up the lobby and the balloons by each of the venues, and it was Mallory sitting on the floor, and you're just like, Polyester, and I'm like, oh my God. And then you're hugging me and all this stuff, and then I just hear Polly, and I look and I'm like, hi, and I'm Mallory, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. Yeah. It was because the signature hairstyle, the giveaway.
Dead giveaway. Well, Polly, thank you so much for being part of a First Fringe Friday. It's always a great thing to see us. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming.
We love you. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Yay! Stick around for Bruce, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Oh my gosh, Polly is a trip. We love Polly to death. She's amazing. So, Lindsay, who's coming up next?
Okay, the next person coming up is one of our Fringe staples. He's local to the Orlando area. You will have last seen him in Mutnick. Bruce Costella.
Which one am I doing? There's two Bruces. Okay, we'll do this one. There we go.
It's like
there was two Bruces. I had a guess.
That's my worst nightmare.
That was spooky. That was spooky and gay.
That's the real scare. Hi guys.
I'll just do this. We'll mute one and we'll have both. We have you can see Bruce from any angle you want. It's nice. I like it.
Which one's the good side? This one.
That one's your good side?
I think. I don't know.
Bruce, I really wanted a picture of you to be on your shirt. So it's like you and the two different cameras and then you on the shirt.
That's way more foresight than I am capable of. Next time.
That's not true. Wait, where's your dog? That's the most important question that Fringe fans want to see.
Do you want to see?
Yeah, we all do. Everybody wants to see it.
Where are you at? Oh, now she's camera shy.
Oh.
Ma'am.
Oh.
She really is camera shy. That's so funny.
That's my pup.
She was licking the camera earlier when we were,
She was.
testing everything earlier.
She's really good. She's really good at rehearsals, but like the actual show, she like has stage fright, and that's okay.
You
That's
know,
okay.
sometimes life is hard, right? Real life is a challenge. So spooky, it's okay already.
It's okay already.
Bruce, you're a little quiet.
Yeah, earlier we were doing a pre-screening with Holly and Brian and Lindsay and I, and everyone was talking, and like I felt like I was talking normal, and Lindsay goes, "Bruce, you're being really quiet. Or, you're really quiet." And I go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm multitasking or whatever." And she goes, "No, I meant your audio, not
Your volume."
personality."
I meant your audio, not your personality.
Oh my gosh! So what do we get from you tonight, Bruce? What are we gonna see?
So, last October I did a queer horror anthology, sort of cabaret, sort of variety show called Spooky and Gay, and so this is sort of a digital sequel to that. I might be planning to do an in-person one come October, but we can talk about that later. So this is my deep dive into the world of video editing, and it's been a dive. I think it's turned out pretty cool, but we can talk about that after too.
All right. Well, before he gets started, because he's really selling the sizzle, he's got some stuff here. He's got a lot of it, so I had to, kind of make it a scrolling thing. He's got many options. You can PayPal brucecostella@gmail.com. You can go to Venmo @Bruce-Costella, or on the Cash App $B Costella. So a bunch of different variations there. So I'm going to let that roll for just a couple of seconds so people can do it. I'll put the comment in the chat as well, so you can make sure you send Bruce some love as well for his art that he's going to be giving you tonight. All right. That's a heck of an intro.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Which one are you doing? BC Theatricals or just the Bruce one? What am I doing?
BC Theatricals is the one.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good show, Bruce.
All right.
What? Thank you. All right, guys.
I'm here for you, Bruce. I believe in you. It's the first time, folks, so be patient. We having an audio issue here? Oh, we got the echo again. One moment, folks. We're going to get this worked out. Be patient, please. I'm going to unmute BC Theatricals.
I need to open in Chrome, that's why.
All right. We're going to try this one more time, folks. New technologies, trying things new. So excited. It's good stuff. This was basically, Bruce was working on this, and I'm really excited to see it. You might remember Bruce from such shows as Muttnik. It was a fantastic show. And he was also a Fringe turn for us at one point. So he was, working in our office for a little bit. I'm going to try this one more time. What is happening? This is riveting theater, folks, and yeah. All right, I do see that it's gonna sound. Let's try it again. There we go.
She moved into the house that summer in the same way that anyone did. Happenstance. She'd seen the for rent sign driving by, just off of a somewhat busy road. The landlord was a man in his late 80s of indeterminate ethnic origin, but she could determine that English was not his first language. Cheyenne had recently ended a relationship with her girlfriend Mila and was looking to find herself a new place to live. The rent was cheap enough and the home was near the somewhat trendy part of town, so she made the jump and moved out the next week. As much as Cheyenne loved Mila and Mila loved Cheyenne, theirs was a romance destined for disaster. Drank too much, they drugged too much, they brought out the worst in one another. So it was that Cheyenne found her own place. It was a ramshackle house, the sort of place that people defended on the merits that it had character. From what she could determine from the landlord, it had been built in the turn of the century and then added on to, subtracted. Its construction was not solid, but it did what it had to do. The landlord did a side business as a handyman, and as a result used a shed he'd constructed on the property for storage. It was a shambling monolith, 3 doors, multicolored due to its construction from odds and ends of different wood projects, plywood, 2x4s. It receded into the side of the property such that she barely noticed it. Cheyenne worked in the warehouse for a major corporation who borrowed its name from a forest in South America. An efficient cog in an efficient machine. She spent her days running down warehouse hallways, gathering products for people's express deliveries, dildos, cleaning products, phone cases, didgeridoos, you name it. She did it. She always received top marks, and she couldn't help but feel like she helped people in this way. Cheyenne worked hard, but she played harder. Even in the absence of Mila, her alcohol intake was staggering. In a given evening, she would frequent 5 different bars, close one out. Drinks at a friend's, drinks before, drinks after, drinks during. Her evenings would culminate in finding another woman to throw herself into. She always found a girl to take home. A girl who she'd let ride her face, bury herself in her folds, lose her essence, her Cheyenne-ness in the oblivion of this other human. And then she'd repeat. Work and play. Work and play. At night, she would be exhausted, but she was never the sort to sit at home, and that was fine. She found that life without Mila was not so different. Just the person she fucked on a regular basis was. Soon there would be other Milas and other faces, and she would keep on Cheyenning. That was, until one day, she returned home to find that the shed was open. She never tried it before, and never thought to, in part because it was slightly creepy, but also that the landlord had asked her out of courtesy to avoid it. She approached the door, open, black, a hanging log. She could see that through the roof, a part of it had somehow broken through, and a small outcropping of grasses had begun to grow inside. Not interested in exploring it further, she shut the door and then went about her business. She went out that evening, had a few drinks, came home, and found that the door was open. The blonde she'd brought home perked up. "What's that?" "It's nothing," said Cheyenne. "Just my landlord's storage." "Pretty creepy for a storage," the blonde replied. Without giving it a second thought, Cheyenne rushed over to it and closed the door. The following morning, upon getting ready for work, she noticed something strange. The door had opened again. Before she pulled out of the driveway, she found a spare brick and placed it in front of the door. It seemed logical that it had swung open. Just to make certain, she went and tried the other two doors, but they were sealed shut. Even with her limited view, she could tell that this part of the shed was separate from the rest of it. That day she worked incredibly hard, sweating and perspiring despite the chill warehouse air. She was hungover, more so than usual. A text message from Mila on her break sent her into a mild spiral. "I miss you," said Mila. Cheyenne couldn't help but couldn't help but bringing her back into her life. But no, they were bad for each other. They were not right for each other. Cheyenne immediately went out, having been asked by a friend to get dinner at a TGI Fridays. As she downed $2 martinis on special, the thoughts of Mila faded quickly from her mind. From there they stopped at 2 more bars, craft cocktails fast and loose as she guzzled them down. Though she was not able to bring a girl home, she settled on late-night taquitos as a vice. The 7-Eleven clerk looked through her as she struggled to insert her chip into the port. Too drunk to even really remember her PIN. She made it home, showered, and crawled into bed. Bang! She ran to the window. In the direction of the sound, she peeped through the blinds, terrified. The shed door had opened. She ran to the front door to make sure it was locked, locked her bedroom door, and crawled into bed. Though no other noises came that night, she didn't get any sleep. The following morning, when dawn had crept its way, Cheyenne went outside to see what was the matter. The brick was gone. Nowhere in immediate sight, but the door was open. She peeped into the shed. It looked the same, except for a keychain. A monkey keychain. It belonged to Mila. Immediately she threw her work clothes on and drove directly to the warehouse. She worked her shift aggressively, loosely, throwing any odd numbers of things into any odd numbers of latex gloves, hair curlers. She called her landlord, tried to explain to him that her ex-girlfriend was performing stalker behaviors and that she'd need to get the police involved. He yesed her until she hung up the phone, clearly unfazed by her panic. Her hands on the steering wheel of her Honda Accord gripped tight, she barreled toward home. But then, an idea. She turned and turned, straight for Mila's place, straight to talk to her. She knocked on the door, pounding on that single one-bedroom apartment. A different girl answered the door. "What do you want? Is Mila in?" "Hold on." The girl left, and Mila returned. "Hi, Shy," she said. "I know you've been fucking with me," Cheyenne bellowed. "I know you've been fucking with me. You can just stop it now. I'm gonna get the cops involved." Mila recoiled. "What are you talking about? I know you found my new place and you're trying to fuck with me." Mila continued shaking her head. "I don't know where you live now, Cheyenne, okay? I don't know where you live." Show me your fucking keys, you bitch! Show me your fucking keys! I know you left your keychain there! I know you left your keychain! Mila defiantly produced her keys from her pocket. And hanging on it was a pink neon monkey keychain. It dangled in front of Cheyenne, mockingly, as Cheyenne's eyes widened. She fled, returned to her car, barreled home. The shed door was closed, she could tell. She walked up to it and opened the door. Nothing. Nothing at all. But she could hear a small scratching. The wall that divided it from the other two doors. A continued scratching. Until finally, a whisper. Cheyenne. It was Mila's voice. She left and made for the farthest left. The door with the lock on it. She pulled, and it gave way. She stepped inside. It was dark. Dark even for the dusk. She could see above her a pair of crutches sitting in the rafters. Broken tiles. And then she turned a corner and saw it. And she lost herself in the folds of its oblivion. I am a lapsed Catholic, which means I am no longer a practicing Catholic, but I do have all the residual guilt. Growing up, I had to learn all about sin, contrition, Christ, just Catholic things, you know? It was a real disappointing moment for me because I used to be able to game the system. See, as a kid, I could convince one of my parents to take me to the playground so I wouldn't have to listen to the sermon. Once I got old enough, I could no longer do that. That's terrifying. As a result, I had to listen to what they were saying when it came to how much of a sinner I was and how much of a straight shot to hell I was going on. And as a thought experiment, you know, I like to think of imagined hells. The kind of hells that we would get sent to in 2020. Because I do think that fundamentally hell's not an awful thing. Like, yes, it was used by the rich and the powerful as a way to exploit the poor, right? But I think at its core, nowadays we could definitely use a little more incentive for people to be kind. Seeing as rampant cruelty is the name of the game, I think if there were tailor-made, bespoke hells that people got sent to for their various crimes, be they, you know, on a global scale or the micro, I think that people might be a little nicer to one another. I'm going to give you some examples. For example, there is a hell where your mother catches you masturbating, and she's not very impressed. It's said that you die 3 deaths. The first is your physical form. The second is when the last time that your name is spoken. And the third is when your digital presence disappears. But I suggest a fourth, slightly more subtle shift. A death that is linguistic. And that's when your name is uncomfortably shifted from the present tense to the past. That's a hell. It's Christmas morning, and you open your presents to find the hottest and latest video game console, and not a single game to play on it. You have to struggle to appear not ungrateful to your well-meaning but clueless parents. There is a hell where Wilson Phillips in tight 3-part harmony greets you with the phrase, "You're fucking dead. You're fucking dead," to the tune of "Hold On." Oh wait, that's heaven. There's a hell where your childhood idols, the artists and figures who made you who you are, who shaped and carved your humanity, who taught you the world through their art, one by one, they die of old age, and you continue living in their absence. There's a hell where you get icy hot on your asshole. It sucks. Don't ask how I know. It sucks. There is a hell where you make a dating profile and every single person swipes right on you. But not a single person messages you. There's a hell where you forever have cereal, your favorite cereal. Mine is Frosted Mini Wheats. But you never have milk. And like, I don't try to do some fancy workaround like, I'm vegan, I'm non-dairy, blah, blah, blah. No oat milk either, you fuck. There's a hell where you attend a pool party and you're the only queer person there. You don't know anyone and you try to ingratiate yourselves to be a good house guest. Everyone loves you. You're the toast of the town. You make your way through the party and think, wow, I've really made some friends. As you go to the poolside to grab a White Claw from the cooler, you stop dead in your tracks as you notice a Trump 2020 flag hanging limply over the lanai. This hell also works if you're, anyone not white. There's a hell where you're a well-meaning white family in an SUV, and you're super jazzed to get some Chick-fil-A after Zach's successful soccer game. Did you see the way he ran goalie? My God! Chick-fil-A's gone out of business. Chick-fil-A never existed. Eat some fucking Popeyes, you dumb bitch. That's a hell. Nobody should be eating at Chick-fil-A, by the way. If you're currently eating Chick-fil-A and watching this, I want you to take your Polynesian sauce and fucking just gouge your eyes out with it. There's a hell where none of this matters. There's a hell where everything I do from now on is on a screen. And there's a hell where I'm not willing to change. It's something to say that this is... It's easy to say that this is a terrible time. And in a lot of ways it is for a lot of people. But I like to think that it's asking... But I like to think that it's asking us to confront what we're afraid of. And sometimes it's the people that are close to us. Sometimes it's people we thought we knew. But I think, this is no promise, that maybe if we keep trying, if we continue to learn and adapt and listen, I think maybe that some good can come out of this. Or we'll all die! Who knows? That's a hell. Hello, friends. I'm a huge fan of horror films, if that wasn't plainly obvious from my dedication to this entire thing. And one of my favorite horror films to watch, especially growing up, was A Nightmare on Elm Street, specifically the entire franchise. There is a certain campiness and a certain absurdity and macabreness that it strikes me as especially queer, despite it having mostly heterosexual protagonists. And if there's one thing I love, it's things that don't take themselves too seriously. and that would be the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So what I thought I would do is combine that with my absurd hair and a seminal classic in the form of Smash Mouth's All Star, and create a little ditty that I've titled Elm Star. And if you're a fan of the film, I hope you'll enjoy. Somebody once told me about a child killer. I think his name was Krueger, Fred. He was looking kinda burnt, bladed fingers and his thumb in the shape of a claw on his forehead. Well, the dreams start coming and they don't stop coming. I'm stuck in the floor when I hit the ground running. I booby trap the house like it's Home Alone. He tries to give me tongue when I answer the phone. Nowhere to run, nowhere to flee. Someone help me out here on Elm Street. Johnny Depp's bed has a heavy flow. If you've seen the movie, you already know. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. We're all his children now. Never gonna sleep again. It's a sequel, and it's so much gayer. Freddy's allegorical, at least that's what they say. Ask any of the cast and they're pretty unsure, despite the leather daddies and him dancing in his drawers. Then comes number 3, the plot's not the same. Some teens enter dreams and be Freddy at his games. The kills are creative, the box office rich. Freddy welcomes us to primetime, bitch. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. The films just get worse from here. Never gonna sleep again. Now the fourth's so boring it's beyond reproach, except when that one girl's a giant cockroach. And as for number 5, it's left me agape, cause Freddy's mom's a nun he was conceived by. And there's still more movies to go. Well, 2 years start coming and new nightmares coming. Broke all the rules with meta commentary. Didn't make sense, but the film is fun. Then your brain gets dumber when he fights Jason. Explosive fights and comedy, fanboys love and hate it respectively. We won't discuss the remake cause it blows, but if you've seen that movie, you already know. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. He's your boyfriend now, Nancy. It's burn up like a weenie, and his name is Fred. Yeah.
One of my favorite aspects of Halloween, especially as a young human, was that I could do and be whatever I wanted to be. But it's my feeling that children need some limits on the sky. I think that children should be able to be whatever they want to be for Halloween, and I also think that parents should be able to dress their children up to be whatever they want them to be. But I do think that there are limits to this belief. Take, for example, you can dress your baby up as Dottie from A League of Their Own. Who is this for? People who like A League of Their Own, of course. This is concerning because it looks like the baby is being eaten by a shrimp instead of being a shrimp, and he's not super thrilled about it. This one I like because it evokes the image of this child being suspended in midair, spinning on a motor and having lights shot at him, and that's just comedy. I also dislike this one because of the implications. One, costume's great, baby looks cute. However, they have staged this photo such that this child is in a nest. There's a lot of implications here, either that he's going to attempt his first flight and break every single bone in his toddler body. Perhaps the toddler has been abducted by a bald eagle and has been raised as one of its own. That is another set of drama that I don't want to unpack. Costumes should not raise more questions than it answers. However, my favorite baby costume that I came across was this. What you see here is a whoopee cushion. There's a lot of layers to unpack.
Step 1. The fact that it's a whoopee cushion. You are supposed to sit on whoopee cushions. Are you supposed to sit on this baby? That's not good. Babies aren't designed to be sat on, from what I understand. Item 2. This child, as depicted here, is not real. Well, partially real. They found a picture of a baby's face and photoshopped it into the crevice, and the hands are plastic. I didn't notice this on first look, but if you actually zoom in on this photo, the hands are reflective, and its left hand is the sort of thumb out that goes into like a baby doll's mouth. So this godless chimera, this abomination you see before you is, to my mind, the greatest possible infant costume you could acquire. I think things get diciest as soon as teens and tweens enter the picture, because I think as soon as you think that you're able to make your own decisions, you can make terrible ones, and you, a parent, have to fund them. But I don't think you have to actually support their stupid decision making. Not to call your kids stupid, they're probably not stupid, they're just playing way too much Fortnite. Anyway, if your child decides that they want to be a vampire, they're going to grow up to be a homosexual. I'm sorry, those are just the facts, because no child wants to be a vampire because it's cool. They want to be a frilly gentleman with a cape. That's exciting. If, however, your child chooses to be the vampire with the cane, they will in fact turn out to be bisexual, pansexual, or ace-aro. I don't make the rules, like I said, guys. That's just how this works out. I'm also not a very big fan of inflatables. For example, I think that they sort of miss the point of what they're supposed to do. If your child, for example, chooses this one, they're a piece of shit. If your child chooses to be Patrick Star, again, I have questions. Note that his hands have grown hands, and that his feet are these little stubby, I don't know what's. It's very unsettling and nothing I want to spend my money on. This, however, is an excellent costume. If your child picks this, you done right. This costume takes a bit of explanation. It's inspired by an internet urban legend, a creepypasta by the name of Jeff the Killer. And Jeff the Killer was invented on 4chan and Something Awful. And if you don't know what those are, they're basically a hotbed for trolls and low-tier internet content. So over the years, creepypastas like Jeff the Killer, another example would be Slender Man, have crept their way into popular culture, trickling down all the way to children. And here we have this Halloween costume, which points to them for picking something that was free to, not license. If your child chooses this costume, I would suggest locking your bedroom door at night. The fact of the matter is, you can return a costume, but you can't return a child. So, when you're raising kids, try to make sure they have good taste. The news fell on ears that had endured a year of disappointments. Halloween had been canceled. No trick-or-treaters, no parties, no functions. It was just another onslaught in what had been a year that never was. There's a house on Dogwood Street. It's made of rumor and conjecture. The children all speak in hushed tones about it, dare one another to go, but few ever do. There's some say that it's haunted by the ghosts of native Seminole Indians, murdered in cold blood by Florida militia. There's others who say a widower, driven mad by grief, took his own life there, his children unable to ever sell it because his blood had soaked so deeply into the fibers of the carpet and the ground below that they'd have to tear the whole place down. Others said that the place ate children whole, swallowed them bone and blood, and summer kids whole. But the children that did visit, very often on Halloween, since that was always a part of the myth, they got answers. And while Halloween was canceled, there would always be a jack-o'-lantern placed neatly at the front porch that would answer the prayers, that would answer the call of those who seek it. Children lost or looking, left askew, children who would find their first sense of belonging on Halloween. Halloween wasn't canceled because Halloween was an idea, a barrier, a marriage between disappointment and joy, life and death, spirits and the living. You couldn't cancel Halloween in the same way that we could never stop living. For as long as there's a house on Dogwood Street, there is a Halloween.
Woo!
Bruce!
Woo! My gosh. Wow. Everybody give it up for Bruce. My gosh, Bruce. Holy moly. You are muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute there because you muted yourself, so I can't unmute you. I'm going to put up your info. I'm going to scroll that through the bottom. Everybody, please take a moment. Throw Bruce some love. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Bruce, I always forget how disturbed your brain is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Now we got the right one up.
Yeah.
Cool. Bruce, that was amazing, man.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
You totally my bailiwick there, man. Big fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, so I loved the song. So good. I'm actually so crazy about those movies. Was friends with a number of the performers on Facebook for years. I think I'm still friends with Troy Newkirk, who played the asthmatic girl from the fourth movie, the third movie. Anyway, but yeah, I love those movies, and that song was brilliant. I loved it.
Thank you.
A big fan of H.P. Lovecraft?
Yeah, so what I like about this is that I get to sort of tap into influences that I maybe can't fit into like a full-length show.
Sure.
Because they're like micro stories. And so you can kind of create and borrow these like imagined little worlds for the thing. So yeah.
It very much a couple of the pieces reminded me of the podcast Welcome to Night Vale, which I'm a huge fan of as well. So anything that can be compared to that, you're doing a great thing. My favorite line probably of the whole thing was, I had to write it down because it made me laugh so hard, was the godless chimera as a description for something.
It's really horrifying. And
I know, but it just, I laugh so hard at that. I'm like, I grab my pen, I'm like, I'll write that one down.
Someone thought they were really slick in Photoshop when they did that too.
Yeah. Fantastic. That show had everything. I love it. It was great.
So, as someone who saw, I saw Spooky and Gay Volume 1 at Savoy back in October, and seeing this one too, I thought it translated really well to the screen, like in the digital age. I mean, obviously, I think we all prefer to be in person. There's something special about that. But I thought, this is you did a great job in presenting it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It was very well done. Very well done. I know you said you had some editing concerns and all that, but you're totally fine. Everything looked great. I just wanted to fix your scroll there. There we go. Now there's a little dot in between now. It's easier to tell between all the info.
My wall of text.
Your wall of donations. That's good.
If anyone has any questions for Bruce as we're chatting, feel free to write them in the comments. Bruce, I really enjoy, and you do this in your stage shows, and you did this tonight. I enjoy how you switch so effortlessly from from your emotions, like the screaming in the camera about Chick-fil-A, to playing Smash Mouth covers on guitar, to like that, like There's a Hell section was my personal favorite.
Yeah, same.
And my favorite line, I wrote it down, was "There's a hell where I'm not willing to change." And I'm like, oh my gosh, and that gave me like Mutnick feels too. Like there's like a line in Mutnick where, oh my gosh, it's like I'm just standing there watching as everyone. Oh, Bruce, you know it.
Which one?
I'm standing there watching as they're passing me by. It's something similar to that.
I'm not in that show gear. My brain is so fried from this right now.
Well, switch gears and tell me what that line is.
Recite the entire script.
Tell me the line.
Something, I don't know. Like, I think that, so kind of, I can say it for the record. The editing issue that I had was that I actually had 12 minutes of the show be edited over by me over the span of, so this was all written and done and filmed and edited in the past week. So none of this existed prior to. And so I was editing the file as I went, and then I managed to edit over the last story. And I'd saved it so many times that there was just no Frankensteining it together. So that last little vignette was a story that I'll get to tell some other time, about a trans woman whose mother was dying from COVID and had returned home and sought refuge from the pumpkin, the spirit of Halloween. But that's another time. To echo what you were saying, I really love, I like, when I write, I always like to think of like emotions and like emotions and feelings as like colors and like seasoning kind of a thing. And so like it's that like salt to your caramel or cheese to your broccoli. Like I think stuff stands out when you have things to juxtapose it and butt it up against. So I always try to keep that in mind. So I'm glad that was successful here.
I think it shines through in everything that I've seen that you've produced. And it's one of like stylistically, one of the things I enjoy about your shows a lot is, I don't mean this in a weird way, but like I feel like as an audience member, you were leading us down a certain path, and then you kind of like sprinkle these emotions on like throughout the show, and like you catch us off guard, and then we're like, oh, you're really adding an extra element of something for me to think about with this performance.
Get your noggin.
Get your noggin working.
Here's somebody that you might know. Lisa Hart wants to say, I love Bruce's writing so much. I'm curious to hear if he has found it easier or more difficult to write during COVID madness. How does he find ways to stay inspired?
I mean, I think everyone's going through that, right? It's a sort of crisis of conscience. Like, is my art worth doing? Is it even like why am I doing this? And so I think what I've started to rediscover is doing things for pleasure and not for utility. I think as artists, we get super hung up on can I make money off of this? And like, obviously everyone's thinking about money right now, right? But at the same time, I think as soon as you activate that part of your brain, you sort of limit the possibilities. And so for me, it's been just play and like just goofing around, because I say it in the show, like I like people and things that don't take themselves too seriously, and I try to incorporate that into what I do.
It's funny, you were doing and occasionally do the Bruce Bumps series, but it's funny, I didn't catch right away that you were calling it Bruce Bumps, but like I just knew you were doing it. And then one day I was like, oh my gosh, he totally should call it Bruce Bumps. And Lisa was like, yeah, that's what he is calling it. And I was like, oh, I think that. I just knew what you were doing. So obviously I'm going to go watch it. But it was just funny that I like named it for you, but you had already named it.
I forget how I feel like I stumbled on it by accident. And I was like, I would be stupid to not call it that. So I did. Yeah, there we go.
Christian Stroller says, I've never been a big horror person, but Logan Donahue initially taught me how queer the movies can be. I appreciate that Bruce touching on that. Definitely. That whole second Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Yeah, if you haven't, you need to. It's a time. Well, and so that's something I wanted to at least talk to you guys a little bit about. Is like something that always excited me, like as a young queer person, was that like horror movies and horror fiction, it allowed room for the other, and the ideas that they explore like are not, because queer life in a lot of ways is terrifying, it's exciting, and I'm representative of I'm still a white cis gay male, so like there's a lot of nuance and experience that can be mined for really interesting and compelling social commentary, because that's the horror that I'm always most attracted to. Like I love Nightmare on Elm Street, don't get me wrong, but like when you can incorporate an angle that makes you stop and think like, oh, this isn't just a guy stabbing people in the face, this is like fascism, or this is crippling fear of opening up to people. I think that's when it becomes elevated and more interesting, and I love marrying the two if I can.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
But
So-
I think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go. You go.
I think I'm going to this is like the first time I'm announcing this anywhere, but I think I'm going to attempt to do a picnic version of Spooky and Gay, where
Cool.
very large front yard, and it would essentially be like a house party / performance. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
So wait, where could people have their eyes peeled at? What's your page?
Yeah.
Your work, Bruce?
So I am BC Theatricals everywhere. Man, what are you doing? My dog is like excavating my couch.
You leave that dog alone. Nothing's wrong with the dog. The dog is perfect in every way.
I think she pushed her monkey toy into the crevice of the couch.
Oh, that poor thing. Let's arrest her.
There's nothing here. What are you doing? Anyway, you can
First, we're
find me.
live, by the way.
I know.
There are people
You can
watching.
You can find me at BC Theatricals on Facebook and Instagram. I try to post there semi-regular.
Lenzel.
This is my dog. She's very cute.
If everybody's enjoying seeing the dog, give Bruce a tip. His information is scrolling slowly across the bottom of the window here. Pepper needs Kim. Oh, and there's Lil Sebastian too. If you like seeing Lil Sebastian, give Bruce a tip as well.
You want to bring the tip?
Just hit the Cash App, $ B Costella. He says he's BC Theatrical everywhere, but obviously not on the pay pages. So
Listen, I have a civilian life too.
consistency, Bruce.
It's like
Consistency.
Clark Kent.
I am also, I sometime, hopefully in the new year, will be, fingers crossed, premiering a solo show that I was supposed to do at Orlando Fringe this year. That is also a psychological thriller. It's called Unhappy Accident, and it's not about Bob Ross. So if you want to see me be more spooky, then keep your eyes peeled. But only on Facebook, not on Cash App or Venmo.
I'll be doing a live performance on Cash App. Check it out. Very cool. That was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you. I thank you guys for allowing me to try this out. It was a cool little exercise for me.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of love.
Churn out in a week.
Clap, 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 clap.
I know. We really pulled it together quickly. We were like, Friday, here are the people performing. See you in a week, everybody. We should just do that. We should just have everyone perform something that they've never performed before. Oh, maybe that'll be a month.
That's what I
like that.
Was excited about, was because it's a challenge. And especially doing it in this format is very different for me. So like I was grateful to get to try something out.
And honestly, I think like maybe something like that would be good also because I feel like I need deadlines and to have a task, especially in a situation like this where a lot of us are questioning our art and are questioning our methods of creation and all of that regarding COVID. I think maybe having a deadline for some people really could turn out some interesting content.
I know it was helpful for me, for sure. Like, but best believe I was working down to the minute.
Oh, no, I know.
As you were testing it earlier.
I got the text at 8:28 that said, please stall for a few more minutes. I'm still exporting.
I love it. Oh, Bruce. Well, this was a lot of fun, folks. This was awesome. If anyone has any more questions, shoot them over right now. If not, this was rad. Our first Fringe Friday. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Oh, I do have a few more little announcements that I want to mention for people who tuned in late. But Bruce, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, buddy.
Next time, produce Fringe Turn the Musical.
Fringe Turn the Musical, I love it.
That's what I submitted for my show idea, which when I was a Fringe Turn, oh, hello. When I was a Fringe Turn, I made the passing comment that I should do Fringe Turn the Musical and then be given, it's site-specific, and then be given various tasks to accomplish throughout the lawn and the office, and people could follow along. But thankfully, that didn't pan out because that's a lot of work.
It'd be a niche audience, too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. One more time, we'll give a plug for Bruce. PayPal, brucecostella@gmail.com. Venmo, @BruceCostella, or on the Cash App, $B Costella. B Costella. All right. All right. Follow him around, folks. Totally good. Love you, Bruce. Thank you much. We'll see you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Bruce.
Bruce. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our first month of First Fringe Fridays.
Yeah.
That was so fun. It was nice to have Polly and Bruce on there. But I want to talk about what's happening in the future because we've got a whole bunch of things happening here at Orlando Fringe, and I want to mention everything one more time for those of you who were a few minutes late coming in. One, for next month's First Fringe Friday, we are going to be having a BIPOC 10-minute theater festival. So the application for that will begin on next Friday around noon. So stay tuned for that. We'll be posting all over Facebook and all of our channels. Next, if you're an artist and you want to perform at Winter Mini Fest, the applications for that are still happening until September 1st, and you can check our website for that information as well. Next, we are having our first workshop of a huge amount of workshops we'll be having this year. This one's called The Final Draft by Mackay Eastman. It is geared to helping you create a 10-minute play or a one-act play. It's a 4-week course. It's only $35. And at the end of the 4 weeks, we'll be having a showcase here on the Orlando Fringe page with all those plays from that class being read. So that's going to be exciting. $35 for 4 weeks. It's really going to be a great experience. And Mackay is super talented and incredible, and don't miss his class.
He is right, totally.
Lastly, I know that you're all enjoying us here at Orlando Fringe, but I wanted to give a shout out to some other fringes that have events happening across North America that's going on this month. Great Salt Lake Fringe and Minnesota Fringe all have ongoing online programming until August 9th. You can find all the information on their Facebook pages. Tampa Fringe is having their digital festival until August 15th. And Hartford Fringe in Connecticut, they're accepting applications for their festival in October until August 15th. All of those fringes, you can just search on their Facebook page, and all the information's right there. But I want to make sure to give them a shout out because they're working hard too. So let's go support everybody.
Yeah, and some of the shows are free. Some of them have tips. So make sure if you're going to these other fringe festivals, this is a way to experience other shows that haven't come to Orlando. If you see something that's out there, connect with those artists and say, hey, apply for Orlando. I'd love to meet you in person. I've gone to all the different, fringe sites and seen some of the shows. I've seen some amazing things. So make sure you check out some of the stuff that's out there. Tampa Fringe, you can experience that one of two ways: see the list of shows, or like do a virtual walk around the city. It's pretty cool, and there's chickens in the road and everything. It's weird, but I love it. It's so cool. Will and Trish over at Tampa Fringe, very, very cool. So
yeah, and a lot of your favorite Orlando Fringe artists are at these festivals too. So if you're missing some of them, check their pages out too, and they're probably out there because we're all just trying to present our art in this new world for now, hopefully.
all right.
But thank you for joining us. We'll see you next month, September 4th at 7:00 right here.
That's right.
At
Right
Orlando
here.
Fringe.
Yeah. Thank you all very much, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.